All right. Can I play this Klay Thompson sound as proof why we love Klay Thompson? Check this out. This is remember what happened with Devin Booker when he pointed to his 4 rings
early in the season last year.
Early in the season, Booker was getting the best of him. Klay ended up, I think, getting ejected. This is why I love Klay Thompson. Take a listen.
I know Book. You gave him the.
Yeah, I was in my feelings, though. And
time.
Book was busting my ass that day. I was not where I needed to be. Yeah. Stuff doesn't age well. That didn't age well for me. Like, I don't need to be flexing 4 rings, bro. Like, everybody know that. That's on Wikipedia. Like, my game wasn't where it was at. And we all get insecure at times.
Yeah.
I'm not man enough to admit that. I'm man enough to admit that we all have our moments of weakness. So I'm not really proud of that one. Because I see Devin Booker and I should be like, man, I should be proud of this young man.
Yeah.
Like, the work he's put in, he survived a tough regime in Phoenix where everyone's getting traded. He's playing for a new coach every year, but now he's a franchise player because he just kept working. So I admire the guys who have work ethic like that, you know?
How can you not like Klay Thompson?
It's pretty cool.
That is cool. That's totally cool. Let that be a lesson for all of us. It's okay to say, God, I handled that one terribly. Klay seems like he's in a great frame of mind. This whole interview is really good. You want me to play some more of it? This is playing with.
But before you do, I think.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
But it does confirm, though, what everyone had kind of been talking about at the beginning of the season, which was Klay was in his feelings. Like, Klay was in his head. And that was the reason he was shooting what? He shot like 20% in October from 3 or so. Like, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And everyone was talking about how, he's coming back and didn't work out over the summer, and he's worried about the top 75, something I think he also mentioned throughout the interview. He was focused on himself. And whenever he came to this realization, I imagine it was shortly thereafter the incident, because Klay Thompson's play also got significantly better from that point on. He had the one-on-one conversation, or not one-on-one, but a team meeting with Draymond Green, kind of told him that he thought he was being a little bit selfish or taking shots that he shouldn't. And so Klay Thompson is telling us, like, that moment was something to where, like, he was soft. He was sensitive. And it's one of the reasons why I think everyone loves Klay Thompson, because as much as we don't hear from him a whole lot, he's not someone that is very outgoing and public. Like, he's not doing the publicity tour the way Stephen Curry is throughout this summer, and Steph's not doing it for clout, but that's just not who Klay is. But when he does speak, he's very thoughtful, he's candid, he's genuine, and he also kind of he sounds like a good guy. Like, even when sometimes his play is admittedly selfish, and he's taking terrible shots, and he's trying to shoot himself out of a slump, at the end of the day, I think we all know Klay Thompson means well as a good person. And so it's another affirmation of that, coming off a really hard season for him, and one in which he finished in arguably his worst playoff shooting performance of all time.
Right. I mean, like, and I'm not, but just think of all the stuff we've heard from Draymond this year, this offseason, about the punch, and, he said something, and I don't want to compare Klay and Draymond, but I'll just say that Klay saying that is one of the reasons why, to me, he's like the most well-loved of the big three. Now, follow me here. Obviously, Steph Curry's got huge fans and is a better player, but, like, I think there's a lot of, like, what I mean is,
like, local love.
Non-Warrior fans. Like, if you, Joe Schmo fan in Chicago, they might not like Curry because he's so great. They might not like Draymond because they don't think because they kind of think he's a goof. But everybody likes Klay, and that's why, right there. That's why everybody likes Klay Thompson. He was on with Paul George. The what's he call it? The podcast?
Podcast P.
Oh, here he is on. Can they really win another title this year?
But I know, Andrew, Steph, Dre, CP, and I, and the rest of the guys, we're hungry. We're in our group chat right now. We're trying to set up some mini camps for the season, but we're all on the same page. Like, look, we got another ring in us. We at least expect that we can do it if we just stay the course and not look too far ahead. Take it week by week and just enjoy the process, because that's all you can really do. If you focus on the championship, it doesn't really do you nothing. You got to enjoy everything about it, the training camp, the preseason. So last year, I definitely have a bad taste in my mouth still, but that's not the worst thing, because now I'm hungrier than ever, and I still want to, I want to get back to that mountaintop. Like, 4 is cool, but why not get as many as you can get?
Exactly.
At least a 10th. And then I can walk away from this game saying I gave it everything I had.
Exactly.
That's all you can do.
Why is Paul George saying exactly?
Well, that's, as a great interviewer, you know that you kind of have to agree with your interviewee.
You know what? Remember we played the Kyle Juszczyk sound about how you just can't snap your, like, this is to me the theme of probably both the Warriors and the 49ers seasons, is that they both have aspirations for huge runs, but they got to get through. Like, they got to get through the season. And there's no guarantee they can get through the season and be a great team. But, like, that's the one thing I think we sometimes lose sight of, is how tough it's going to be for the Niners to get back to the NFC Championship game. I mean, it's going to be so hard for them to do that. Do I think they're going to do it? I do. I think they'll be one of the last 2 teams standing in the NFC, but it's not going to be easy.
But the difference in question to me between the Niners and the Warriors, everyone was under this, I don't know if it was a guise or illusion, but everyone kind of operated with the idea that the reason they didn't win last year was because of agendas. Like, It didn't have to do with talent, or it didn't have to do with basketball. Now, that's debatable, because I think there's still some deficiencies with this team on the court. But the majority of the issue with them last year was, well, they're not connected. They're not together. That sound from Klay Thompson sounds to me like he is someone that is, or has had his eyes open to, like, that needs to be number one on the agenda of things, on the list of things we need to get done. We need to be connected this year, and we all have to be aligned. Whereas the 49ers, I think most of the questions just surround their talent. Like, are they actually good enough to win a championship and win a Super Bowl? Because they seem to have all the pieces. Now, the Warriors do, but age is maybe why some people they have questions. My question to you, Steiny, would be, with kind of your theme of last year, starting with, of course, the punch, but everything that followed as far as guys wanting this or guys not playing like this, or even someone like Klay Thompson appearing to play a bit more selfishly at the beginning of the season, and even sometimes during the playoffs, like, do you think that he has, along with the rest of the Warriors, wiped those things clean? Because I'm not exactly sure. Like, that's what we're going to find out if they linger. But it's a very different tone to me this offseason than the last one, to where we just proved all the doubters wrong. We're happy with our 4th championship. It's the most important one because we came back and we did it. And now it's like, it almost sounds like they're trying to kind of conjure up that same us against the world mentality.
I think so. I think I think what happened was 2 years ago at the beginning of the season, and it's not just the fans and the media, and people can, hey, go ahead and disagree with me. That's fine. But I really think what happened after the Warriors, as they entered their season, after the 39 and 33 year?
Yeah.
Then they won it, right? Mm-hmm. So they enter 39 and 33.
Lost in the play-in.
At that point, Kuminga's on the team or drafted. Wiseman's on the team or drafted. I believe that the motivation that team used to win a title 2 years ago was created by the fans who counted them out, the media who counted them out, and I'll say it, their own front office who appeared to want to move off them by the way they drafted during the period of time when after Durant left and after Klay got hurt. I think that when the organization drafted Wiseman, no experience, Kuminga, no experience, Moses Moody, 1 year of experience, I feel like the veterans on the team, and we heard it from Iguodala on the podcast about how they think it's easy. The front office thinks it's easy. Like, people can say that the Warriors were motivated by their doubters, they had doubters in their front office. That's what I firmly believe. And those players are smart enough to see it. And that was one of their motivational tools 2 years ago. And I think they are. And I'm not saying the motivation's the same, but I do think they have a similar type of motivation this year about, okay, now everybody does think we're done. Like, I know they thought it 2 years ago, but now we got to go prove it again. I think that's absolutely fair.
I think also, I don't know how many of these they have this season internally, like you're talking about, but a common thing among dynastic groups are peripheral enemies, like the media or the fans or the doubters, or in the case a couple of years ago, perhaps members of the front office who didn't think they could get it done. I do think that the Warriors are more aligned from top to bottom just based on the moves that they've made. The trade of Jordan Poole for Chris Paul, the re-signing of Draymond Green. I mean, you still have Klay Thompson on the last year of his deal. You still have Steve Kerr on the last year of his deal, so it's not completely, in lockstep from that sense. But there doesn't appear to be as many peripheral enemies for the Warriors now as there were 2 years ago. Now, that could be a good thing because there's less distractions, there's less things you have to kind of navigate on a daily basis. But I wonder if there's also maybe some less added motivation from the outside because, people aren't going to think that they can do it again this year, but it's not necessarily because they're doubting the championship pedigree. I think they're just looking at, well, Stephen Curry's going to be 35, Klay Thompson's going to be 33, 34, Draymond Green's going to be 33, 34. Klay Thompson also mentioned later in the podcast that he thinks he has 4 or 5 years left in him as far as his career. So, they all understand the urgency on this season, whereas 2 years ago, I think they could probably make the case there's we have a runway. Like, if we don't get it done this year, it's not the end of the world because we got probably 2 or 3 beyond good years left in us to make another run.
Right.
It sounds to me like Klay Thompson, along with the sound we've heard from Draymond, what we've heard from Stephen Curry, what we've even heard from Steve Kerr to some extent and Mike Dunleavy Jr., and by the action of adding Chris Paul, this is lining up to be their last best run. And I think we're hearing that from Klay Thompson when he's talking about taking it one day at a time, not looking ahead to a championship, because there is more importance on this season perhaps than the one 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think there's more at stake. More at stake because if they don't get it done this year, how can anyone maintain that they're going to get it done the following year if now we've got 2 years of not getting it done? 805, Steinmetz, is this the same Klay Thompson you've been trying to run out of town? Yeah, and it's funny because we opened the show talking about announcers and homers and play-by-play guy in Baltimore got suspended for essentially saying the Orioles have had a lot of trouble with the Tampa Bay Rays. And this is and 805, this is the point. What do you want? What do you want out of your flagship station? Do you want when people say, oh, Klay Thompson, he had the best 2-month stretch in February and March that he's ever had since he came into the NBA. He may have played the best basketball of his entire career in February and March. Okay, you want me just to sit and not comment on that? It's wrong. It's wrong because basketball's half defense. Klay had the best 2 shooting months of his career. I don't think it was the best 2 months he's ever played. So is that a hater? Is that trying to run him out of town? No, and by the same token, this is what I'm talking about. You can have an opinion that Klay Thompson was a little bit selfish last year, particularly at the beginning of the year. You can have that opinion. And then I can also hear him talk about what happened with Devin Booker and say, you know what, that's why I love Klay. Because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. None of these guys are perfect. So, but Klay Thompson seems to be in a really good frame of mind. And let's be honest, he wasn't last year at the start of the season. Was he?
He admitted it. He wasn't. I was in my feelings that night.
Exactly.
I was getting my ass busted by Devin Booker, and I threw up the only thing I know. He also went on to mention, of course, Like, why did I need to do that? Like, it's my resume's on the internet. It's on Wikipedia. Like, you can go look at my 4 championships. I've accomplished a lot in this league, and I was in my feelings about it. Like, he literally said that. You know, talking about Devin Booker, like, we all get insecure. And that's something that athletes probably deal with better than the majority of us because their lives are in the public sphere. But Klay Thompson bringing us into his, I can feel appreciative of it. But it also doesn't mean that last season we can't talk about what he didn't do. Because, again, bringing it back to the announcer conversation, the reason why the Orioles play-by-play man is basically, suspended indefinitely is because he's talking about the downtimes.
Right.
Where we come from and where you and Guru come from, Steiny, the majority of times I'd like to think, is, and maybe it's unfair, but you do judge the Warriors based on their better years. Like, we've seen Klay Thompson play fantastic Hall of Fame level basketball. That's why he's going to be in Springfield. That's why Draymond and Stephen Curry are going to be right there with him. We have seen those guys play all-time historic level basketball.
Yep.
So when they don't, it's evident. Like, it's clear. And so for you to come in and not express how you feel about a game that you're used to watching at a certain level and it's not there, that'd be disingenuous. Like, if I listen to you and Guru and you guys mail it in one day, well, I know you mailed it in because I've heard you have fantastic shows.
Yeah.
And it'd be wrong of me not to let you know that you mailed it in that day.